Akala Tono.
Hollow Knight is an award-winning indie game. First released in 2017, best known for its brawling Metroidvania map, fast-paced boss fights with responsive combat, phenomenal music and art style, as well as a vast mystery woven through its lore. Although it released as an indie title, it quickly shot to the top of the charts and public knowledge, and is praised as one of the best games of its caliber and genre. Infra, releasing its first episode of 3 just a year earlier, is a lesser known title, yet one that no doubt deserves the same renown and respect. Lauded by its community, and rightfully so, it is praised for its densely packed environmental storytelling, grounded realism, impressive social commentary, and obsessive attention to detail. But hidden beneath the facades of intrigue lies something deeper. Something most players feel but rarely name. Both of these games are perfect examples of quiet places. Spread throughout the sprawling paths of caverns, wastelands and gardens, city streets, tunnels and forests, there are small pockets of respite. These quiet places offer a pause, a time to reflect, to look back on the path you've travelled and to gather strength for the road ahead. I believe not just games, but all of us can learn a lot from these spaces and their roles within our worlds.
An ESCOM P75 PCI with an Intel Pentium processor for under £1,000.
From the moment video games moved out of arcades and into our private lives, quiet places started to emerge. Spaces that feel more impactful and remembered than any boss fight or plot twist. One of the earliest I remember being Yggdrasil at the top of the observatory in Dragon Quest IX. As games matured beyond constant action, effort was made to craft these original spaces deliberately. Safe rooms in survival horrors, empty corners of classic games, or pause menus, all breathing a warm, nostalgic calm. Speaking of which, quite often pause menus can be classed as an almost fourth wall-breaking quiet place, a time where either real life takes over, or when you need to rest from what you are doing. Pause menus, and specifically their music, have captivated many and created very nostalgic memories of when the takeaway arrived at the sleepover, the soft glow and calming notes of a game paused mid-adventure as the ambience for a feast. What makes them impactful isn't just the contrast to chaos. They offer something deeply human within something artificial. A warmth, a hush, a moment to feel something deeper than the surface intentions of the story or gameplay. They're moments meant to just be experienced, to exist as an intentional pause. They could be at the end of a long path, acting as a physical and mental dead end, or they could be a transitional area full of just enough detail to make you feel this place holds significance. While playing Hollow Knight and Infra, I found myself within these places with such frequency. All of these places contrasting so greatly from the fast-paced action or oppressive environments just a few moments before are simply quiet, pulling me into the game so abruptly and completely. There is something so serene about these places, the places that once were. Simply empty, no puzzles, battles, secrets or obvious Easter eggs, just quiet. And again, this really is demonstrated so perfectly in both Hollow Knight and Infra, with their intense lore building, incredible level design and beautiful ambience. Where in a normal game the edges of the map or transitional areas would be the most sparse, filled with low poly assets and a generic fog to move you along, the intense detail put into these, as if they too were on par with the most important rooms in the game, are what create a deeper magic in these two games. And in the context of these games themselves, they are also places that once knew such bustling life and function, and hint at a rich history inside every crack and crevice. Hollow Knight truly holds a special place in my gaming journey, one of those familiar games that can just be played over and over. Set in the fallen kingdom of Hallownest, you descend as a small nameless warrior into the bones of the once thriving civilization. The game doesn't flood you with exposition, instead it buries its stories in the dust. Everywhere you go, cracked stone walkways and arches, empty stations, broken signposts and graves speak of life long gone. The architecture looms with purpose, but the vast majority of its people have either been lost forever or reduced to hollow shells of what they once were. What remains is ambience and ruin. Entire biomes whisper their histories through soft echoes and distant sounds. The whole world aches under the weight of all the silence. What stood out the most was how Hollow Knight makes its quiet places feel like sacred ground. Forgotten but far from meaningless. In many ways they mirror the hidden corners of real life. The train stations overtaken by ivy that will never see passengers again. The boarded up arcades and cinemas of seaside towns that once knew such joy. Or the silent ruins of a family home long left, with nature slowly knitting over the cracks. These are places where human presence lingers like smoke, where the silence carries memory. This game captures that sensation with remarkable care. It doesn't just present abandoned places, it reveres them. A path well worn by decades of use, a distant bell ringing in a silent station, or the faint trickle of water through tunnels, all of it so intentional, heavy with what was and what will never be again. Because it isn't just the visual decay that creates this feeling, it's the sound design, the restrained pacing, the subtle use of light and shadow. The quiet isn't a void, it breathes, it listens back. You pause not just because it's a safe moment to catch your breath, but because something in you wants to linger. You want to look just a little longer, to hear if there's one more echo. It creates a strange peace, a solemn understanding that things fall apart, that time erodes, but that beauty remains in the shell. In Hallownest's quiet places, you feel both loss and reverence. These moments become more than atmosphere, they become communion. In the stillness, the game lets you grieve. It lets you remember, and sometimes it lets you hope. Where Hollow Knight's quiet places are drenched in lore and melancholy, Infra's feel rooted in something closer to home. Real places forgotten by time, filled with silence rather than storybooks. Last year on stream, shameless plug to the Twitch, who knows, I might actually stream this month, I played, or really I should say experienced, the game that is Infra. It may never fully reach the lore building of Hollow Knight, but its quiet places are absolutely in such abundance, it directly inspired the creation of this video. Being set in a fictional city but based on the real world, you play as a structural engineer, Mark, whose task it is to quite simply rack up as many overtime hours as possible, exploring abandoned industrial buildings, warehouses, tunnels, forests and facilities in order to collect photographic evidence of Satan's OSHA violations spread throughout these structures while completing environmental puzzles and avoiding death along the way. Now, having been on many urbex adventures myself, I was curious to see how well it captured the atmosphere, and let's just say, good lord, it was like a shot of concentrated memories direct to the dome. This is an incredible game.
This is so beautiful. Oh, and you can even see the cars going by on the motorway.
I can't say I've ever experienced being stuck within a collapsing underground chamber running from fallen debris, but the developers fully captured the utter magnitude of experience, atmosphere, look and sound of raw industry and nature so perfectly within the confines of a game. Without gushing too much, this game's level of accuracy is simply phenomenal, showing an insane amount of research and time put into creating replicas of functioning infrastructure. Anyone with even a hint of the tism will fall head over heels for this. And luckily for me, almost all of the environments fulfill the criteria of quiet places in one way or another. Whether I was walking beneath a towering dam, tracing my way through sewers, or stumbling upon overgrown shroom dens, the world of Infra made me feel utterly present, immersed in the eerie beauty of these abandoned places. During my playthrough, silence became my companion. Something about this game makes you want to respect the serene and utter calmness you experience in these massive parts of the game.
Oh my god, this genuinely could not be a better sight. I want to remember this moment forever. This is beautiful. Oh my god.
There really is something so special about the quiet places of Infra. These places that could or should hold so much activity and liveliness, being completely devoid of anyone, always feeling like you've just missed someone or they're just in the next room along. I started playing this game quite casually, and yet by the end I was completely invested in Mark's work, the story and the atmosphere. But I think this also brings home another point that is shared between games like Infra and the activities like urbexing. Where humans leave, nature takes home. Where places are abandoned, animals and plants don't pay much mind to the condemned sign outside. I am being completely honest when I say some of the most peaceful moments I have ever experienced gaming was within my playthrough of Infra. What connects Hollow Knight and Infra is that they both share that identical feeling. One of the collapse of what was once great into disrepair, stories long forgotten, purpose long lost, and you finding the scraps left behind to piece it all together. They aren't just calm, they're haunted by memory, filled with echoes of what once was, and entirely uninterested in rushing you along. The people and lives these places affected and helped shape, as well as what remains being devoid of the life and energy that once filled it. A space to pause, reflect on your life and your impact on the places you visit. What might be left behind of you when you're no longer there? What is to come beyond this point, but also what came before you? And ultimately, what is happening right now? Very few experiences, whether in games, media, or real life, can really tap into forcing you to be completely focused on the present place. This ultimately is the spirit of Quiet Places, a complete focus on what is happening in the present, and experiencing a deep appreciation for what once was and what might be. I mentioned in a documentary I did once how these kind of places make you realize that you can just put a pause on life. Because I think that is the essence of nostalgia with our remembrance of gaming as kids. It wasn't the games were better, although majority definitely were, and it also wasn't a misremembering or a nostalgia bias. I believe it was because we played those games in a time when nothing else mattered but what we were doing in that moment. This is the essence of life that is recreated within these games. In these quiet places, we pause not just the game, but life itself. Here, we reflect on the worlds we've wandered, the sights we've seen, and the stories we hold deep within. These moments suspended, where we too are part of something larger. They ask nothing of us but to be present, and in doing so, they remind us that stillness can be as meaningful as motion, that in both games and life, it's often the quiet places we remember most. Wow, okay, yeah, there we go. Right, well, this is a video a long time in the making, so thank you so much for watching. It has been an absolute pleasure to create it. If you enjoyed this video, or if anything within it resonated with you, then feel free to leave a like or even subscribe, all the normal stuff. It genuinely really does actually help to just know that I'm on the right track and to keep creating things like this. But I'd also like to hear from you in the comments too. What are some quiet places that you know of in games that have made an impact with you? Or even better, just like my example of Yggdrasil earlier in the video, what's your first ever quiet place that you remember really just taking in the atmosphere of? And if you ever feel like catching me live, then you can head over to my Twitch at GLBaker. I sadly can't promise regular streams, having 2 kids will definitely do that to you, but if you do show up and if I am streaming, then it will be nice, chatty, chill, cozy vibes, and with just a little hint of banter. And if you want to suggest a video or topic that you want me to look into or do a deep dive in, then you can join the Discord and drop me a line there. But anyway, that's the end of the video. So, clear off, go outside, look at the sun without any eye protection, have a picnic in the park, fondle some moss, or you can keep on looking at my channel, bring in some views for me. But whatever you do, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a good day.